Okay, today, folks, we're talking about some major news that could go into effect, and that could effectively end or greatly diminish microtransactions, which I actually think is overall a benefit. Microtransactions, especially in mobile games, which is going to be kind of the main topic of today's video, are basically created to abuse kids. They basically prey on kids. That's a lot of the time how they work. The greatest population of video game mobile gamers is the greatest demographic, especially age-wise, is kids. And to disagree with that is wrong. I believe there was a metric posted the other day that only 18% of kids utilize microtransactions, which I think is bullshit. I think it's much more than that. If you were to ask me when I was a kid if I used microtransaction on mobile games, I probably would have said I didn't. I definitely did. Or maybe, you know, or other ways like battle passes, stuff like that. So definitely, I do not think microtransactions, especially on mobile games, is a good thing. I don't think it's something we should be striving for. However, I think what this bill does, this bill created by the CPC network guidelines on virtual currency, I think this EU group, parliamentary group, is going to do some good things. Basically, in March of 2025, the EU CPC network released non-binding but influential guidelines to ensure fairer practices in video games utilizing virtual currencies. I believe this to be a good thing. These apply existing EU laws like the Unfair Commercial Practices Directive and Consumer Rights Directive to in-game purchases, aiming to prevent confusion and exploitation. Again, I think that is generally a good thing. The guidelines list 7 core principles, including transparent pricing, no forced over purchasing, and protections for vulnerable players like children. They are not a ban, but could lead to a national enforcement against non-compliant games, which again, I think this is good. And to cover the key principles, again, they're advocating for a clear and transparent price indication, aka showing the cost in real money, not just virtual currency, which again, I think is a good thing. Avoiding practices that obscure pricing, so no confusing exchange rates, no forced purchases. Players choose exact amounts, basically. Pre-contractual information, again, I think that is a good thing. Respecting the right of withdrawal, another massive thing. 14-day refund for unused currency. Fair contractual terms, again, I think that's a great thing. And respect for consumer vulnerabilities, no exploiting of minors, etc. I think this is all good. It's very hard to see the bad in that. Again, in general, I'm against these microtransactions, especially on mobile games, because the mobile gamer demographic is kids. And that might be changing because our generation is growing up, Gen Z. But again, I think the rule of thumb is most mobile gamers are kids. And a lot of these systems are made to take advantage of kids. And that's just a fact. And I think it's sickening that a lot of these companies in the EU think that they have some right to take advantage of kids, or else all of a sudden this massive game industry will go under. If your game industry basically stands on the fact of taking advantage of kids, I don't know what to say, man. Should that industry actually exist? In my opinion, no, it shouldn't exist, because again, you're taking advantage of kids. Not a great thing. Typically something we stand up against in society, particularly Western society. And I think we should keep doing that. Another thing I like about the EU that they're doing is a lot of pro-consumer laws are passed, especially in the gaming sector, is due to the EU. So typically whatever the EU does when it comes to gaming, they seem to be on it. They seem to be on top of things. And I'm typically pro-EU regulation when it comes to gaming, because they tend to get things spot on. Right? Very rarely do I look at an EU gaming guideline and I'm like, what the fuck are you all on about? But particularly when it comes to this and other anti-consumer and predatory tactics that these companies employ, I think it's great that the EU cracks down on these things. So Crystal Schaldemos, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that name wrong. She's from Denmark, and she's a politician in Denmark. She basically, I'm going to quote her real quick. My report calls for a mandatory safety by design and for a ban on the most harmful engagement mechanisms for minors, end quote. And again, I completely agree with her here. I don't know anything else about her. I'm only talking on this topic. Again, I think this is good. I think what the CPC network guidelines are doing on virtual currencies is good. However, game developers are worried about the DFA and CPC guidelines extending consumer protections to virtual items, including requirements for real money disclosures and withdrawal rights. A letter from developers like Ubisoft argued this would, quote unquote, jeopardize game development in Europe, end quote, without proper consultation. Again, in my opinion, if you believe that you need to prey on kids, I'm sorry, but maybe your industry shouldn't exist, or maybe you shouldn't exist within the industry. And I hate to break it to you, Ubisoft, you guys are not on the good side of things here. Especially in my opinion, you guys have created a lot of shit products over the last couple of years, and this is adding to it. Again, a company that I would like to call they're giving you guys a free masterclass, a free 100% free masterclass in how to fuck up in every way possible as a AAA, as a massive corporation, because they just alienate their customers all day. Whoever said this at Ubisoft needs to get fired immediately. I honestly do not understand. Honestly, I do not understand why you guys are so anti against this virtual game currency information for the consumer. They're heavily against it. They're heavily anti-consumer, and they're heavily anti taking advantage of children. So they're for taking advantage of children. Basically, that's what they're saying. And they can make up all these bullshit reasons as to why they're not. That is completely incorrect. It is completely wrong. I mean, we're seeing it across the space, like with online gambling and stuff, and how much easier it is to take advantage of children. Again, I'm going to say it. I think, again, if your industry hinges on the idea of stopping everything that is said in the key principle guidelines of the CPC network, I think fundamentally maybe your industry shouldn't exist in general. That's just my opinion. We're gonna get another quote from the Supercell CEO this time, Erica Paninin. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, but I don't really care. Quote, the current proposal as it stands destroys the player experience completely, end quote. Oh really? It really does destroy my player experience? You know what? I stopped playing Supercell games because of how pay to win they are. They're so incredibly focused on pay to win. It is insane. And they draw you into this alluring game, this fun game, Clash Royale, Clash of Clans. And these games are made for children. Majority of the player base are kids. And they have these like fun little gym things, and they hit on your dopamine as a kid. They're very predatory tactics, and they're basically trying to take advantage of kids in order to take their money. And that is just a fact. And they make upgrading buildings take forever. They make them cost a lot of resources. Then you have to wait for your troops to train, and you're sitting there for hours. And being a free-to-play player in these games that are heavy microtransactions, not just on cosmetics, but literally in everything the game has, where there is direct resource to resource comparisons where you can exchange premium currency for regular currency. These games as a free-to-play player are horrid. They're horrible to play. They're not fun to play, because you as a free-to-play player, you're sitting there all day trying to, or not, maybe not all day, maybe you only have a couple hours, maybe an hour, maybe a couple minutes, and you're just trying to enjoy your time, have some fun, and some douchebag can spend $300 and get ahead of you. And as a kid, that is even more dissatisfying, because you have more time to spend playing the game and you want to get ahead, but you can't, because you know the game is trying to fixate you over towards these microtransactions. It's trying to get you buying these microtransactions. Again, this guy is a scumbag. There's no other way to say it, because he says the current proposal, again, quote, the current proposal as it stands destroys the player experience completely, end quote. And I completely disagree. I completely disagree. That does not affect the player at all. They just come at you with these emotional arguments, these arguments that have actually no validity. They have no validity. It's not even an emotional argument. They're just saying bullshit just to yap in your ear. I hope the EU passes it. Dr. Buske, sorry, again, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. He's at the BEUC Commission. Quote, we need transparency regarding the actual cost of purchases made with virtual currency, end quote. I completely agree with this guy. This guy's what a lad. I completely agree. We do need, having more transparency is never bad. And if somebody wants to cover up something, maybe it's not the best. Maybe they're trying to hide something. That's all I'm going to propose the question to you all. Maybe they're trying to hide something. I'd love to see the back-end statistics. I don't know how it works in Europe, but I would have the EU subpoena the records from the companies and get the actual data and do the actual test on everything and have a vote. And hopefully they go pro-consumer, because that's what I'm for. Again, y'all, this is massive. I hope this passes. I hope these guidelines are enforced. That's my opinion. Let me know y'all's thoughts down below. As always, folks, I hope y'all have a great day. And as always, remember to junk it out.